Hello, my name is Sarah Cornish and I own My Four Hens Photography. I am a natural light child and family photographer based out of Connecticut, but I absolutely love photography and I'm comfortable shooting just about anything. I create and sell resources for photographers such as Photoshop Actions, Lightroom presets, and I host creative processing workshops for Photoshop. I just wanted to do a very quick video tutorial on how and what a Photoshop action is and when to use them, and I also wanted to show you a couple quick cheats and things that you can do to make them work better for you. Some little quirks that kind of have a way around them in case they bug you when you're working with actions in general. So to start off, you can find your actions by going to Window and Actions if it's not already open. I happen to have them open over here. And what an action basically is it's a file for Photoshop. They work in most versions of Photoshop Elements and Photoshop CS and Photoshop CC, different versions there. When a photographer creates a Photoshop action, they're essentially recording their workflow or different steps to edit their images. And when they save them into this file, you can install the same file and run these actions on your images and get a variety of very cool effects. This is wonderful because it saves you time in your post-processing, and as most professional photographers especially know, time is money, and the less time we're sitting on our computer, the more time we're with our family or doing the things that we really love. So, with that being said, I have an image here that I absolutely love, and I kind of wanted to show you how I would navigate around an action. So once I kind of have my actions chosen and I know what direction I want to go with my processing, which I know can be a little confusing at times, I'm going to start with an action collection called Sublime. This is one of my newest releases. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the very first action because it's there. I'm going to hit play. And when it's done, you'll notice a prompt pops up. It says, Basque is a gorgeous, understated, creative action. You can run this twice for a less subtle effect. Be sure to tweak to taste. Now, the stops are built in as directions to help you get through the actions, and that's wonderful. But if you've run this action a million times, sometimes you just don't want the stops to come and pop up for you. So one way to get rid of the stop indefinitely, to not have to deal with it ever, is to go down when you expand the action, go to the very bottom of the action, and where it says stop, just click that and then hit the little trash can icon, and then it'll say delete, and there you go, and that's it, and it'll never do that for you again. The other thing you might notice is my particular actions duplicate the main photo layer. This was our original, and then this popped up and the action ran on this. The reason I choose to do this is because when I'm going through my workflow and I quickly want to see if an action will work with an image, I love to be able to close right out of the window if I don't like it. It also is nice because it doesn't do anything destructible to our image. It's not editing on the original JPEG because, as you know, the more you edit a JPEG image, the more the pixels break down. So if you really don't like this feature, or sometimes it can throw a wrench if you use Lightroom and you like to export back and forth, you can simply just go to the very first step in the action where it says duplicate first document, and you can do the same exact thing that you just did with that stop. You can actually delete it. And when I delete this and I run the same action again, you'll notice it does it right on the original image, and you'll never have to worry about that again. So that's something that you might want to consider. I do recommend that you back up your actions. That way, if you decide later on you might like that feature, you can reinstall the actions fresh and that'll reappear for you. But once you buy these actions, you can absolutely customize them any way that you like. So normally I've been grouping the actions, meaning I've been tucking all these layers into a neat little folder for you so you can tweak the action all at once. I left all the layers intact so I can show you how to group them just in case some of the older actions don't do it for you. It's very simple. To group an action, you just hold the bottom layer and then hit the shift key, and then click the top, and now they're all selected. And then I just go up top and I go to layer, group layers, and now you're in a folder. And see, I can unclick and click this, and now that whole effect is kind of able to be tweaked instead of having to go through the layers one by one if that's not your thing. To do that, all you would just do is hit this opacity up here and then change your opacity to however much you want the effect to be seen as. Now, a lot of people do not run Photoshop actions at 100%. So if you run an action and you love the effect but it's too strong, you can either, of course, change the layers inside the action, and I have those all labeled, or you can just reduce the opacity of the entire action. And some people like to do that too so they can better combine different actions. The other thing that people ask about is I have it labeled, and I've done this for a long time now, is I have my creative actions and I have my helper actions. A creative action is essentially an action that completely changes your entire image. It might change your exposure, it might add more contrast, it tends to kind of give your image different toning. These are wonderful because it breathes new life into your image and it gives it a very wonderful creative feel. But sometimes, you just kind of need a little boost, or you don't want to do so much to your image, or sometimes you want to accentuate that creative action, and that's what a helper action is. It's a one-click edit usually that's very subtle and can be combined with the creative action or used alone to kind of give your image a nice little bit of pop, whether it be a bit of sharpen or you want to color pop one particular area. Some of them involve brushes and masks, others are just kind of straightforward. So you have to definitely experiment and navigate your way through the actions, and kind of don't be afraid to play, because ultimately when you play and you tweak and you change things, you're going to kind of get acquainted with Photoshop and become more comfortable with your processing. So now we know how to group actions. We're going to open this up. These layers inside are all labeled. Layers like things that say midtones or lighten or light or haze lighten your image. So if you already have a bright exposure and you run an action and your exposure is like, whoa, it's really bright all of a sudden, turning off your midtones or different light layers will kind of bring that back down. In addition to that, you can even leave those on and double click the adjustment layer, and you can actually change the layer itself inside, which I recommend doing because it's really nice to give it your own feel. Same goes for the toner layers. These change your color of your image usually, but if you're using a toner with a color fill, you can actually double click that color, and if you drag it around, you'll notice your color changes. This is wonderful too because it'll give your action a more personalized feel. And then anything that says more color, if you have a warmer white balance or your colors are going global, usually it's those layers and you just want to tone that down or turn that off. Ultimately, if it's not enough, you can also turn it up too. So as far as your layers go, it's very basic and it seems overwhelming, but really, don't be afraid to change anything. You're not going to break it. Another thing that people sometimes ask me is why their after image doesn't look exactly like the preview image. And I know that kind of seems like a no-brainer to some people, but I completely understand that sometimes you see a preview and it's really beautiful and you want that for your photograph, and that's why you invest in the actions. My goal for my actions is for them to be user-friendly, but also to kind of give photographers their own creative voice. Now you have to keep in mind when a photographer creates an action on their image, the action is created on one particular image. Your lighting, your white balance, even your gear and your location are going to have a bearing on the way your image turns out. So if your image that's starting out is darker or warmer or different than the image that the photographer created the action on, the action is definitely going to have a different feel. And that's okay. The best thing you can do is really just kind of find ways to personalize the action, because really you want people to identify your work as your own anyway, and I want to help you do that. I want people to look at your work and know that it's yours and not just assume that it's mine or any other photographer's. So don't be afraid to tweak and change things, because that's why I try to keep things as open-ended as possible. Aside from that, I mean, really, actions are a wonderful tool, and I know there's a stigma around them, but I try very hard to keep my actions very affordable and simple and easy to use, and I'm definitely approachable, and I want you to share. So if you do use my actions, please do share your images on my timeline. It means a lot to me, and I really love to see how different people interpret the creative aspect of the actions. I'm going to be creating more videos of this nature, so if you found this helpful, please, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel or come by the fan page and maybe share some love. It's wonderful and it makes my heart happy. So thank you very much.